Welcome to another episode of Adventures with Edu-Katie. I'm your host, Edu-Katie, and today we're gonna wet our plants and our pants as we learn all about wetlands. So, what is a wetland? Wetlands are habitats that are land that are usually covered or saturated with water throughout most of the year. Marshes, swamps, bogs, lakes can all be wetlands. Wetlands can be found along the coast or they can be found inland like this one. If they're found along the coast, that means that they're affected by tides. But if they're inland, that means that they're affected by heavy rainfall. Wetlands appear to be wild and far off places, and you might be thinking, Edu-Katie, I don't live in a van down by the river. How do wetlands affect me? Ha! And I'm gonna teach you all about how wetlands affect you by going deep science! Deep science! All right, so through movie magic, we're back here at the Nature Center, and I'm gonna show you guys how wetlands actually absorb more water and filter water inside wetlands, okay? So we've got two models right here. We've got Model A, which represents a wetland habitat with lots of growing plants. And we have Model B, which represents a habitat that's been landscaped and has got just lots of mulch around the flower beds. And we're going to pour in this liquid. Now this liquid represents water that has been polluted by people's fertilizers or oil from the road. And we're gonna see what happens when it goes into a wetland habitat or what happens when it just passes through a habitat that has absolutely no wetland plants to help filter out the pollutant. So if we look at our habitats, we've poured all of the water through our habitats and we made sure to pour an equal amount. So if we look, we can tell by looking at our habitat that does not have any wetland plants helping to absorb any of the liquid or any wetland plants to help filter out the water. The color of the water down at the bottom is a darker color and there's more of it. If we look, we've got just about an inch of liquid down in the bottom of this reservoir. Now, if we look back at our wetland model, we can see that the color of the liquid is a lighter color, meaning some of that pollutant has been absorbed by the wetland plants. We also look, we only have about a ½ inch of water down in the bottom reservoir, meaning that this wetland plant has absorbed more of the water than a habitat that does not have any wetland plants in it. So from this deep science section, we were able to see that wetland habitats are extremely beneficial at helping improve water quality by absorbing water and by helping to filter out any pollutants that come into our waterways. So let's go back to the wetland habitat to see all of the species that live there. So wetland habitats are extremely biodiverse, meaning there's an abundance of different forms of life within the wetland. And all of these different forms of life work together in a balanced interdependence. Without one species helping the other, the ecosystem can crater. So what we're gonna do is show how biodiverse this habitat is by identifying as many species as we can. Let's go. All right, this is our first species that we found. This is a species of Sagittaria, also known as Delta duck potato. That's right, Delta duck potato. And the reason it's called Delta duck potato is because when this is blooming in the spring and the summer, it produces lots of seeds that are perfect food for ducks that are in the wetland habitat. Crikey, mate, a wild corn dog has appeared. Just kidding, this is a cattail. And cattails are known as like the iconic wetland plant. And they are just one of many, many, many species found in the wetland. All right, another species we have in the wetland are species of spike rush. Now there's not just one species, there's lots and lots of different species that we found. And these species of plant have chambers inside of them to help them with pulling in different gases back down into the soil. Because in a wetland habitat, they're usually surrounded by lots and lots of water. So we can actually hear the chambers, so let's listen. So in wetland habitat, more than 7,000 species of plants actually survive and thrive here. And these plants live on different levels. Some emerge up out of the top of the water, and some, like this plant right here, are actually submerged. And each plant, depending on where it is within the wetland, helps in different ways. So in wetland habitats, you can find more than just an abundance of plants. There's also tons of animal species, reptiles, fish, mammals, and amphibians, just like this tadpole. We're gonna release it so that way it can become a frog later in life. Be free, buddy. This is another species of wetland plant known as iris. Now, a lot of people use non-native irises in their landscaping because they're very, very pretty plants. But if you look, you can actually find native irises like this one to use in your landscaping around your home. This is a species of invertebrate known as a ram's horn snail, and they are found in the wetland habitat. They love to eat algae, and it looks like since this shell is empty, somebody decided to eat this snail too. In just a small section of wetland, we were able to find quite a few different species. And one species I'm really glad we didn't find today was the American alligator. But luckily, the Nature Center, I have a couple of juvenile alligators that I can show you now. So we're back at the Nature Center now, and as you can see, I've got one of our juvenile alligators, and this is Captain Stubby. He's named Captain Stubby because he was hatched without a tail, as you guys can see. Now, alligators are found in wetland habitats, and they're the apex predator of the wetland habitat. They love to eat things like fish, turtles, mammals, and even sometimes other alligators. Their bodies are perfectly adapted for life in the wetland. They've got webbed feet, their eyes and nose are located on the top of their head. And of course, not this alligator, but other alligators have a very long tail that helps them to swim. Now, we're so glad to have Captain Stubby and Skipper here at the Nature Center. We're so glad to be able to provide them a home and also be able to educate the public on why alligators are so important for habitats like wetland habitats. World Wetland Day is celebrated each year on February 2nd. Now, you don't have to wet your pants like we did to celebrate a wetland. You can visit at the Shadow Creek Ranch Nature Trail at our Overwatch deck, or from the trail at the Dolores Scenic Nature Center and overlook our educational pond. Thank you guys so much for joining me today, and I hope that you learned a bunch on Adventures with Edu-Katie. Bye!